Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you guys are doing great. Enjoyed the coffee. Did anybody get to break the ice cream thing? No? No winners? Okay. Well, great. So, ladies and gentlemen, I want to first have a disclaimer. What you're about to hear may cause you some troubles in sleeping tonight because of the excitement that I'm about to share with you. So having said that, thank you. I want to thank TechCentric and Google team for giving us the opportunity. We'll introduce mLogica in a moment. And just before mLogica, I want to share a little tiny story. I joined, okay, let me introduce mLogica first. mLogica is a US-based, actually Vegas-based organization. We do only one thing, and we do it very good, which is the professional services. And we do have offices around the globe. Some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about is the number 4, which is the legacy to the cloud. And these 3 letters is pretty much essentially what we do. And that includes the distributed databases, applications, or the mainframes as well. When I talked about the disclaimer part, the number 5 and 6 are the ones that are going to cause you for it. I joined mLogica about a year and a half ago. I have worked for many multinationals before, and right at the beginning of in about 2.5 months into the role, I had identified a huge opportunity, which was a multi-million-dollar opportunity, and I took it to the pre-qualification process, and that opportunity was shot down. And I was pretty sad. I was like, hey, I'm bringing in multi-million-dollar opportunity. And they said, Mr. Mirza, we do only one thing. And in part of any solution, there is infrastructure, there is hardware, there are licenses, there is greenfield development work, and then there's professional services part, and then the software and hardware maintenance, which is the annuity part. So out of these 5 or 6 different variables, mLogica does professional services part. So what we do is we actually look at the customer's ecosystem, and then we identify what needs to be done, and then we really happy to also, when we was hearing Google talk about the partner-to-partner network. And so essentially, we actually complement and complete the other partner ecosystem as well. So the professional services part, which is primarily the most complex in so many ways, and the one that actually glues the whole infrastructure, and the licensing part, that's what we do, and we do it very well. Till today, we have been in the business for about good 20 years, and till today, we have never had a failed project. That's a tall order to make, and I'm very proud to say that. I was skeptical in the beginning. I was like, that's a huge statement to make, but now that I have been into the organization, I feel more and more confident about it. So, we do operate across the different various industry verticals ranging from technology, BFSI, telcos, and we do quite a lot of work in the public sector. So in the legacy databases or applications, you might find Sybase was a great tool that existed. And since SAP has bought them out about 15, 16 years ago, ironically, if you've been monitoring Sybase, there has not been a recent upgrade in past 7 years. So release 15.x and 16.x there has not been any Sybase users here, by the way? No Sybase users, or at least don't want to be acknowledged. Likewise, DB2, Oracle, Postgres, Netezza, IBM Netezza, Gen 1 and Gen 2 has reached end of life and end of support life as well. So a number of enterprise customers are actually trying to move away, or they're trying to identify what the next roadmap looks like. Teradata is a great tool. I actually used to sell that in my previous life. And at the same time, I also know that that has become cost prohibitive in terms of the total cost of ownership. And the cloud strategy for Teradata is not really very clear. But yes, it is very deeply integrated to a lot of backend systems, which creates a very complex project for enterprise to actually get themselves unstuck from Teradata. However, we have delivered very successful projects moving Teradata to different platforms as well. One of the key areas are mainframes. Mainframes did an amazing job about 50, 60 years when they existed. They still exist. However, Maintaining those mainframes, be it IBM ZOS, even the mid-range AS400 series, that's also has become, people have kind of learned how to become dependent on them, and they're reluctant to touch this as a can of worms. So a number of people are actually, what we're seeing is they're actually trying to just ride it out until either their retirement or just make sure that it becomes someone else's problem because they don't want to touch it. The reason is, and I'm just talking very frankly, because people don't want to really, there's so much mission critical applications running on it. They want to be, it's like going to a brain surgeon. And we, as a matter of fact, this is a common terminology that we use at mLogica. We would like to refer ourselves as brain surgeons. If a person needs a brain surgery, would you rather recommend them to go to a dentist or a regular general physician who does it? You probably would want to recommend them who does it every day. So that's what we do. We do these brain surgeries of databases are really the brains of the organization. And then that's what we do. We help them modernize. So when I say legacy to the cloud, anything that has been written in using previous old tools, we help them modernize to the cloud. And then a very good thing that we are hearing about across this region, and also government of Qatar has also announced the cloud first policy, and I believe there was a recent update on that. I'm based in Kuwait, so I know in Kuwait, very similar policy has been implemented, and there's a bit of a gray area today in terms of what does that compliance look like. And it has almost pretty much become mandatory for any government body to be able to buy any ICT infrastructure. They have to justify to the regulator. I'm pretty sure in Qatar and in other countries would be very similar. So this is actually a very good thing. And moving to the cloud, the reason why we are here is moving to the cloud because not many software companies are actually developing their applications onto the on-prem setup. They're all developing, all the new development is done onto the cloud. That's number one reason. Number two is the cybersecurity element. I mean, the code that was written many, many years ago, it's prone to have be exposed to any kind of setup because the ports or the applications, hardware ports, they were not designed for that. I'm going to talk about two products. We actually don't sell these products because there's no reason for us to sell them. I'm going to share a little story of one of the largest projects that we were invited to bid for in North America. It was a government body that required, it had mainframes, it had AS400s, it had Sybase, it had DB2s, a very complex RFP. And I'll share some of the numbers so that you can help put that into perspective. Our competition actually proposed a solution to the government body that was going to take them 5 years to do the project management, 3 years of code freeze, and a price tag of $85 million. We were awarded that project and we delivered it successfully in 3 years with 7 months of code freeze and a fractional price of $14 million, $14.85. And the reason was that we have our own tools, and one of the tools is STAR-M. That's the name of the tool. Essentially, it automates. We are not a staffing company. We believe in automation. And what we do is we plug in our tools, and that actually does the automation, the lion's share of it. And then there always is a little bit of that work that needs to be done manually, and that's what we have the expertise. So the reason why we were able to do this in 3 years and code freeze of 7 months is primarily 3 reasons. One is our automated tools that actually could do lion's share of the automation. Second is our proven methodology that we have been doing over and over again. For past 20 years, we have done nothing but the automation. So we have pretty much mastered the art of doing that. And the third one is our expert resources who know this stuff. So the manual work that needs to be done, that's what they do on it. So essentially, any source languages ranging from Power Builder, SQL, or DB2 or Sybase, things like we talked about, or even some of the old downstream solutions, including PeopleSoft or JD Edwards, for example. So what we do is we essentially put in our tool in the middle, and then we identify what the target language or databases that the end customer wants, and then we help them migrate to the Google Cloud. And I'm going to share some of the success stories that we have recently done, actually, literally about 2 months ago, and that success story was approved by Google. There was so I'll come to that in a moment. The methodology that I talked about is we start from the evaluation. We like to understand what exists today, and then we identify what does the success look like to the customer. We analyze it. Our pre-sales team and our engineers actually they practically live for a few days in trying to understand what the ecosystem is. Then we develop the testing scenarios, and that's when after that we do the migration. And during the migration, or actually before the migration, there is so much system integration testing and UAT testing done that by the time we actually convert to the live setup, in principle, it should be a completely an eventless moment. However, stuff does happen, so we do stand by, and by the time we do the cut over, we do leave our engineers stand by for a month or two. And most what we have seen is our engineers are not required after 3 to 6 months. After that, our objective is to transition the knowledge to the operations team and then move backwards. So then that's when we move on. And that's the reason why we say that we don't really sell our tools, because there's no need to sell our tools. Because how many times would you want to have migration done? Hopefully not every year. Definitely not every year, because if you do, then there's something wrong. Most organizations, they do the migrations or modernizations maybe 5, 6 years, maybe more. And that's why there's no need for us to sell those tools. So we do use them because that gives us the competitive advantage of doing things manually. We have been doing this around the globe. In the Middle East and Africa region, we are relatively new. We have done, most of our work is done in North America and European markets, and in APAC region. In the Middle East and Africa, I was the first hire, actually about 1.5 years ago. So since then, we have seen a lot of great traction in this region. Gartner says that any work that is, now historically, let's look at what happens today. Most of the organizations, when they want to modernize from their legacy systems to the cloud, be it on-prem or to the public cloud, or could be hybrid or multi-cloud strategy, whatever they have, most of the time they would actually give it to their DBA and say, Mr. DBA, this is your KPI for the next year, good luck. So the DBA actually not only has to maintain their existing day-to-day operations, now they have this monster of a job that they have never done before, and they need to figure out how to do this thing. And by the way, everything that they're dealing with is absolute mission critical. And nothing can afford to go around. So if they were to do this manually, the failure rate of manual work is about 53%, but using the automated tools is less than 2%. So it makes logical sense to actually use the tools to be able to make sure that your projects are successful. And like I said, mLogica is nothing but an automated tooling company focused on the professional services part. This is a methodology that we talk about. So in terms of having the journey with the customer, we engage our pre-sales team right at the evaluation stage, right at the beginning. And then we move them through the analysis, translation, porting, and then mapping exactly what needs to be done, what was legacy, what purpose was this serving before. So we have seen code that made sense maybe 15, 20 years ago, but it's not really relevant anymore. Code related to, for example, SMS or paging system. I mean, anybody remembers what paging system used to be? Anybody? Has anybody ever used a pager? All right, okay, great. Great, yeah, don't be shy. I have used pager. I used to carry it with pride with me. So anytime a system would go down, my pager would go, and then my wife would say, what is this beeping? And I'll say, well, that's a cool little cute thing. We have seen code. Anybody uses pagers anymore? You use pagers? Okay. Right. Oh, Richard, you still use pagers? Healthcare? Okay, well, that's a unique scenario. But in so many scenarios, we have seen the code that was relevant to the pagers, which is not really applicable in most scenarios anymore. It's become completely irrelevant. Faxes, that's a dying technology as well. There are many other scenarios like that. So the world is changing much faster than we anticipated. So we need to really move with that pace. Some of the, now, one of the best things, the examples that I shared, 85 versus 14 million, our official tagline is that we deliver projects, or our customers tell us that we can deliver it in 1/3 of the time and half the cost. And that I have seen it proven over and over again. And really the key is that we have the tools, that's our secret sauce that helps us do that. So we have been able to help modernize a credit card company which had about 140,000 SQL programs, and that's not a small setup, I'm sure you can tell. Another was the trading company, which had about 15 terabytes of aggregate size of databases, and the SQL programs were about 2,000. This is a telco company. I will give you a hint what that is. It is the largest telecom company in the world. And so I'm sure you can figure that out by now. It is North America based. And they had number of SQL programs, about 90,000 of them, and we were able to successfully modernize them to preferred landing zone of them. This is a very recent success story that we had, and this is what we were talking about. We were very excited about AlloyDB from Google. This was actually done in India. An organization that actually does it's a switch between where they gather the solar energy and then they transport the energy they distribute it to the local other consumers who need it. So it was a company that had started off by sheer innovation, and they were experiencing a very inorganic growth, and they were struggling with the data that they had and not know how to process it in a faster way. So they engaged us, and we know that AlloyDB is a very newest addition from Google, and even though we have done work with Cloud SQL before and BigQuery, but we wanted to actually really test the AlloyDB. And when we actually, and this success story has been approved by Google literally about 3 weeks ago. So we're very excited about it. What we discovered that the transactional workloads were able to process 4 times faster. That's a massive magnitude of improvement. Another thing that we were able to see using the AlloyDB was about 100 times faster analytical queries were processed. That's a day and night shift. And then we were really thrilled with that success, and so was our customers. A few more success stories. This is a US government. Like I said, most of our work, our success, because we started from Vegas. And by the way, every time I go to attend my kickoff meetings, my wife tells me, Naeem, are you really going for meetings or going to Vegas? I say, I promise I'm going for meetings. I know I'm short on time, so I'm going to go a little bit faster. LIBER is our product for mainframe modernizations. I want to only highlight this where it says 90% of top 100 banks. I was reading a research, Forrester said about 55% of largest organizations in the world will be moving to the cloud by year 2025. And then we're actually seeing that. I think it might even be faster than that. So there are organizations, usually banking industry, insurance industry, public sector has mainframes. They have very wisely invested in mainframes. So the stuff that I'm going to go a little bit faster because I want to respect the time. So LIBER is another product, very similar methodology. We are actually working with one of the states. Let me just say so that it's fuzzy enough for you to not be able to pinpoint. One of the 53 states in the United States that are actually helping move the ZOS, IBM ZOS, onto the Google platform. So that's a project that we are currently doing, and we're right in the final stages of it. I'm going to skip a couple of things. So this is an important one. For the mainframe migrations, whether you might be at a different stage of modernizations. So it could be either the assessment stage or the analysis stage, or it could be the proof of concept stage. Where what we can do, help you, is discover and assess what stage are you at and what do you want to go to. And that might end up being able to re-platform, refactor, or re-architect the entire solution. So we can do that for the people who need it. So we help you. Number of more success stories that we have. And this is the last slide. Why mLogica? Because we have done this thing 7 ways to Sundays. That's the only thing that we do, and we're really good at doing this thing. If saving the time, 1/3 of the time and half the cost is important to you, and we are Google partner, and we're working towards a premier partner. We're very close to being the premier partner, and that's us in a nutshell. I will close my presentation by stating I am very good at answering simple questions. Easy ones I'm good at. Difficult ones I get my pre-sales team. So,
thank you, Naim. Thank you.
Right. So any questions?
So it's time for your questions again. Any question? No questions for Naim.
I can handle a little bit of technical.
You can ask.
Oh, I can ask. All right. Anybody using Sybase? I know people are reluctant to use. Or have you seen Sybase? What we are seeing in this region, 2 biggest trends: Sybase modernizations, because that has no roadmap for progress. It's official, actually. SAP has announced it, so there is no roadmap for it. That's something that we are running a program for modernizing the Sybase platforms, and mainframe is another key area. We actually, Atos is, if you're familiar with Atos, we had bought out, Atos is a great organization. mLogica has bought out their product by the name of LIBER, which only does the mainframe modernizations. So we have the intellectual property. We have a massive team out of Italy, and would love to be part of your success journey if this is of an interest to you. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you for your time. It was wonderful talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you, Naim.
Oh, we have a question.
There's a question.
Oh, sure.
Thank you for your presentation. I just would like to ask if your solution, Starium, is exist in the Google Marketplace or not. This is my first question. The second one, this solution can be used to make the migration from Azure to Google Cloud for the SQL program or not?
Right.
Thank you.
Right. So great question. Marketplace, yes, we're working towards it, and this tool can be used for re-platforming any to any. All right. Great. Any more questions, guys? Sir, you have a question, sir?
The microphone, please. On the microphone.
Mohammed Sheikh from Qatar University. Just I was wondering about, is there any in your mind about the risks for migrating the database to the cloud in general?
The biggest risk is the one that we never took. So the risk is growing if we do not touch the existing infrastructure or the existing setup, because you're opening yourself up to the cybersecurity hacks. Your ability to support the legacy infrastructure. For instance, not many universities, you said you're from university, so not many universities teach COBOL or JCL anymore. And the skill set that existed, they're either retiring or about to reach the retirement age. So it's very difficult to attract the skill set from JCLs or COBOLs. And then consequently, that becomes, to support that ICT infrastructure that you might have, for example, in the case of mainframes, it becomes exuberantly cost prohibitive. So the risk is to actually not do anything about it. However, using StarM and LIBER products from mLogica, we do work very closely with you guys. We literally practically come in and live in that whole system for a few days, and then we understand that. And the fact that we have done it many times, it's far much more easier for us to do that, and we definitely de-risk that. And then with you, we identify what the success criteria looks like. So obviously, once the test cases are designed, then we want to make sure that we deliver those success stories. So there should not be any surprises on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you all. I'll be here